Hello, and welcome to the Wisdom of Sex. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Wisdom, and today we're switching things up a bit with something I like to call a couch countdown. Now, you may be asking, just what is a couch countdown? Well, let me tell you, it's an episode where we count down the best, worst, wildest, or weirdest of all things. I thought it would be a great way to give us a fun break from the usual topics and just have a good laugh or maybe a cringe together. The countdowns will tackle everything from fan-submitted stories to some of the most outrageous topics you can think of: aphrodisiacs, positions, worst sex scenes, and more. And yes, as always, there will be some real advice sprinkled in, because let's be honest, what's a Wisdom of Sex episode without a little nugget of wisdom? So grab your drink, settle in on that couch, and let's jump in. Starting off our list at number 10 is Bon Jovi. Known for their signature blend of rock anthems and heartland appeal, Bon Jovi crafted an all-American good guy image that resonated with fans across generations. But don't be fooled. Behind the scenes, the band had its fair share of wild moments that strayed far from that squeaky clean image. During their iconic Slippery When Wet tour, which rocketed them to worldwide fame, stories of debauchery circulated alongside tales of sold-out shows. Groupies reportedly lined the hallways of their hotels, waiting for a shot at some one-on-one time with the band members. Fans saw a clean-cut, relatable group on stage, but off-stage, Bon Jovi embraced the rock and roll lifestyle, like many of the bands of the time. Despite their polished public persona, they were no strangers to the rock star excesses of the era, proving that even good guys can have a wild side. Coming in at number 9, it's Poison. Bret Michaels and his bandmates epitomized the glam rock lifestyle with their tight pants, sky-high hair, and of course, an endless appetite for late nights, loud parties, and women. Poison wasn't just a band, they were a full-blown spectacle of rock excess, and they embraced every stereotype with pride. Their post-show rituals became legendary, especially their notorious groupie roulette games, a Poison specialty. Picture this: a wild after-party with a crowd of enthusiastic fans, plenty of alcohol, and an anything-goes attitude. The result? A scene that was as chaotic as it was iconic, with enough bad decisions to fill a songbook. Poison's approach to life on the road was simple: live fast, play hard, and worry about the consequences later. For them, it really was nothing but a good time, both on and off the stage. Aerosmith is sliding into the number 8 spot, and this one sits firmly on the darker, creepier side of rock history. Steven Tyler, the iconic frontman, shocked even his die-hard fans with a controversial chapter from the mid-70s. During this time, Tyler persuaded the parents of a 16-year-old girl to sign over legal guardianship to him, allowing her to live with him on tour and effectively making him her legal guardian. This arrangement blurred the boundaries between caretaker and romantic partner, raising more than a few eyebrows, even in an era known for pushing the limits. For a time, Tyler was essentially playing parent to his teenage girlfriend. Although the relationship eventually came to an end, the story remains a lasting stain on Tyler's legacy. It's an unsettling chapter that continues to follow Tyler's name, standing out as one of the more controversial moments in rock history. Coming in at number 7, it's Guns N' Roses, the band that practically defined the raw, rebellious sound of the late 80s. With Axl Rose at the helm, GNR didn't just bring grit to their music, they brought it into every corner of their lives. Offstage, Axl was as infamous as he was on stage, building a reputation for wild and unpredictable behavior, with a lifestyle that usually created a lot of chaos around it. Axl had a well-documented appetite for destruction, and he didn't shy away from boasting about his sexual exploits. Groupies were a constant presence in the band's orbit, and the parties thrown were the stuff of rock legend. But beneath the allure of backstage revelry, these gatherings often crossed into highly questionable territory. The band was all about living on the edge. It was intense, controversial, and really stuck with people when they thought about the band. For Guns N' Roses, the boundary between their gritty, dangerous image and real life was razor thin, blurring in ways that would define both their legacy and the dark allure of rock and roll's wild side. Landing at number 6, we have Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. While Zeppelin's music defined the sound of the 70s, Some of the band's offstage behavior has cast a long and uncomfortable shadow into the 80s and beyond. In one of Rock's darker and more unsettling episodes, Page entered into a relationship with Laurie Maddox, who was just 14 years old at the time. This relationship was widely known within certain circles of the rock world, but remains a troubling and controversial part of his legacy. To keep the relationship from attracting legal issues, Page reportedly took great care to maintain privacy. Though much of the wild behavior of the era has been recast as rock legend, this particular story serves as a reminder of the complexities and darker sides of fame that sometimes went unchecked. It's a chapter that invites reflection on the industry's past and the ethical standards that have since evolved. At number 5, we have Ted Nugent. Known for his energetic guitar riffs and songs like Cat Scratch Fever, Nugent was also infamous for his controversial relationships. Taking a page from Steven Tyler's playbook, Nugent became the legal guardian of a 17-year-old girl with whom he was romantically involved. This arrangement allowed him to sidestep potential legal issues and continue the relationship without statutory complications. Nugent's move to gain guardianship was a calculated use of a legal loophole, sparking intense debate even at the time. For many, it's a reminder of the extremes some rock stars were willing to go to in order to maintain their lifestyles, blurring lines between fame, power, and responsibility. Nugent's legacy remains colored by his music, but stories like this reveal the more complicated realities of rock's untamed reputation. Sliding in at number 4 is Kiss. More specifically, Gene Simmons, the iconic rock and roll star who played a major role in shaping the band's legendary image. Known as much for his infamous tongue and demon persona as for his bass guitar riffs, Simmons built a reputation that went beyond music. He is notorious for his candid remarks about his sex life, openly claiming to have slept with thousands of women over the years. He would often boast about his sexual conquests, noting that his fame and bad boy persona were as attractive as his musical talent. Simmons has acknowledged his arrogance and even referred to himself as a sexist pig, a label he doesn't shy away from. He's been quoted saying that he believes women are often driven to use their sexuality to get what they want. This statement, like many of his opinions, is provocative and divisive and aligns with the unapologetic rock and roll behavior he embodies. For Simmons, his approach wasn't just an act, it was integral to the rock lifestyle he promoted. His outspokenness and bravado were often seen as shocking, even in an industry where excess and indulgence were standard. Number 3, and my personal least favorite band, is Def Leppard, whose wildly successful Hysteria tour not only broke records but also became infamous for its offstage debauchery. Known for their electrifying performances and chart-topping hits, Def Leppard also cultivated a reputation for outrageous backstage antics that stretched moral boundaries. The band reportedly entertained a steady flow of fans, with some after-parties bordering on the surreal. In fact, their backstage scene was so wild that one member compared it to a conveyor belt of women. And the worst of it, it's said that the band's favorite times were with both mothers and daughters at the same time, a detail that highlights the extreme nature of their rock and roll lifestyle during this era. Def Leppard's on-stage appeal was only rivaled by their larger-than-life parties, adding a layer of scandal to their legacy that fans and critics alike won't soon forget. Taking the number 2 spot, we have Led Zeppelin once more, this time for the infamous Mud Shark incident, a rock legend that's as bizarre as it is unsettling. The story goes that during a stay at a Seattle hotel, one of the band members allegedly used a live mud shark in a degrading incident involving a groupie. Although the exact details and truth of the story remain clouded in rock lore, it has become one of the most infamous tales backstage. The mere idea of such an incident is enough to cement its place in rock and roll infamy, where antics often bordered on the surreal. When your reputation includes seafood in such a scandalous way, it's safe to say you've etched a permanent spot in rock's Hall of Shame. True or not, the Mud Shark story stands out as one of the strangest and most talked about legends in music history, capturing the unrestrained excesses of rock's wildest years. Before we hit our number 1 spot, let's take a moment for an honorable mention. Laurie Maddox. While not a musician herself, Laurie Maddox made a lasting mark on rock and roll history. Known for her relationships with several high-profile rock stars, Maddox has already come up on our list with Jimmy Page. But her story stretches well beyond that one relationship. Allegedly, she was romantically involved with some of rock's biggest legends, including David Bowie and reportedly his wife Angie, Mick Jagger, Ronnie Wood, Jeff Beck, Iggy Pop, and Keith Moon, just to name a few. Maddox's presence around rock icons of the 70s paints a vivid picture of the era's culture, where young fans often found themselves in close orbit around their idols. Whether her experiences are seen as daring, controversial, or simply part of rock history, Laurie Maddox is a name forever woven into the fabric of rock's wildest years, and in her own way, she's left a unique legacy in the world of music and pop culture. And here we are. Taking the number one spot is none other than Motley Crue. If rock and roll excess had a face, it would likely be plastered with the grins of Vince Neil, Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee, and Mick Mars. Motley Crue didn't just flirt with chaos. They lived, breathed, and embodied it, leaving behind a trail of stories that have since become infamous. Throughout the 1980s, their behavior set the bar for scandal in rock history. Known for their wild groupie escapades, one of the most shocking stories involved Nikki Sixx spiking a woman's drink and later waking up convinced he had accidentally killed her. Another story that made the rounds was a notorious phone call involving a woman, a phone receiver, a phone call to a mom, and a prank that cemented Motley Crue as the kings of rock and roll debauchery. But the scandal didn't stop there. Tommy Lee's sex tapes, Vince Neil's reckless behavior, including a DUI crash that tragically took the life of Hanoi Rocks drummer Razzle, Mick Mars's battle with alcoholism, and Nikki Sixx's struggles with heroin addiction only amplified the band's legacy of excess. Each member contributed to a lifestyle that was equal parts fascinating and troubling, with every headline reinforcing their status as the poster boys for sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Motley Crue's wild antics are unmatched to this day, making them the ultimate icons of rock scandal. Their impact on rock culture is undeniable, both for their music and for the unrestrained lifestyle that went with it. For these reasons and more, they take the top spot in our countdown of rock's most notorious bands. So what did we learn today, folks? Well, if nothing else, we learned that some of our favorite rock legends might have had music we loved, but their offstage antics could have filled a scandalous reality show, or maybe a horror show, depending on your perspective. The rock and roll lifestyle in the 80s was packed with boundary-pushing behavior, often crossing lines that, in today's world, would lead to serious consequences. But here's the wisdom nugget we're taking away. The wild, unfiltered behavior that was accepted or even glorified back then has since cast a long shadow over these artists' legacies. Today, we're much more aware of the importance of consent and respect in relationships. The things that may have slid by in the 1980s are held accountable now, reminding us of the need for change and growth in both relationships and culture. And that's our list of the worst sexual behaviors from 1980s rock bands. Do you agree? Let us hear your thoughts. Thanks for tuning in to our Couch Countdown. If you love this trip down memory lane, or maybe you're just grateful it's in the past, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you have any wild stories or ideas for future Couch Countdowns, I'd love to hear them. Until next time, remember to keep it fun, keep it consensual, and most importantly, keep it wise. Take care.